So in June of 1995, I thought I was all grown up. I'd just gotten married. I had a really nice big grant, and I was going off to Siberia for the first time, to Kamchatka. And I found that about half of Americans know where that is. And that's the half of Americans who have ever played Risk. You can invade Alaska from Kamchatka on the Risk board. Uh, and so Alaskan Airlines had just started flying direct flights from Seattle into Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky. That's a fun city to say fast. And I was on the second flight with my wife, Christina, who was actually a much better Russian speaker than I was at the time and helped with the bureaucratic interface, which started off pretty scary. We landed in Vladivostok and then flew from there backwards to Kamchatka, back north again for complicated reasons. And they let all the Russians off, and then the foreigners were still on the plane, and some border guards came on carrying Kalashnikovs. And I always think of that scene in Goldfinger where James Bond tells Pussy Galore to be careful with that pistol, as it'll cut through the airplane like a blowtorch through butter. And I'm thinking, well, these Kalashnikovs would really make short work of the airplane. And the officer says, as he's checking the passport of the first foreigner, we have special rules for living here in Kamchatka, which really defines my every trip there, where they do make the rules up as they go along. And you just got to roll with it and be ready to fill out more papers and get more stamps and have everything in triplicate. So in 95, I had like 3 years of college Russian under my belt, which meant I could understand about half of what people were saying. And I knew this was tough, and I was slogging through things and trying to get to know people. I was trying to figure out what I would write for a dissertation in my PhD. And after a lot of trials and tribulations, we landed in this small town called Polana. And I went to the teacher's college where a friend of a friend had given me some names. And I went to the director and I said, my friend Victoria Petrusheva says that you might be able to help me with my PhD research. One thing that's really interesting about Soviet Union and Russia is that scholarly scientific work is really appreciated and valued. And people knew what a PhD student was, aspirant in Russian. And they were like, oh yeah, science, that's great, we'll help you. I was amazed. And they knew what ethnographers were. Like, yeah, you study cultures, you want to talk to the grannies, we'll get some. And you can ask them questions. And so when I gave Petrusheva's name to the director of the school, she said, oh, well, I'll call the Koryak teacher and we'll set you up with learning some Koryak language. And so in came Valentina Romanovna Diedik, looking very stern with her hair pulled back in a teacherly bun, wearing a suit. And we were intimidated. And so then she said, well, let's go to my classroom and we'll talk about how things. And so we're sitting, my wife and I are there, and we're sitting in the desks like students in this teacher's college, which has like 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And she said, well, you know, I don't want any money for lessons, but what I would like, and she pulls out this huge book, no props, see, and thunks down the Bering Strait, the Eskimo About Bering Strait by Nelson, and says, I need to read this book for my own PhD studies. I'm starting a degree program in linguistics. And I said, oh, that'd be great. Yeah, I can help you learn some English and you can help me learn Koryak. And so that began then a beautiful friendship with no Nazis and no murder. And it continues to be a beautiful friendship between Valentina and Igor and her children and my wife and children, subsequent trips. And so we kind of got some things figured out. I got some ideas and left that trip and then returned in the spring of '97. Knowing what was going on, had papers filled out in advance. I felt really grown up and sophisticated Siberian traveler. And Valentina said, okay, this summer, we need to go visit my family, and I'll show you some real Koryaks who are herding reindeer like Koryaks and Chukchi related people should. And I got that introduction, and then the next spring, I was staying with the reindeer herders and just had my ass handed to me. I was 27 years old and I couldn't do anything. I could barely chop wood. I nearly killed myself trying to chop wood and falling. And I tried herding deer and lost half the herd. And at one point, my friend Slava, we were talking about ourselves, and then he realized, wait, you're older than I am? Which was the unspoken, was like, why are you so lame at everything? And but after a couple of weeks of herding reindeer, which was some of the hardest living I've ever done in a skin tent at 0 degrees Fahrenheit, I came back to the village and everyone treated me like the most grown-up person. Like, you did it. Russians don't go out there and live with the reindeer herd for 2 years, or years, it felt like years, 2 weeks. And everyone started telling me stories and personal things about their life and their culture. And I gathered more data for 2 or 3 chapters of what ended up my dissertation, because I had let myself get treated like a little kid.